Yeah, we get this excited group of people over here. This really excited group of people to take seats over in this area. We're very excited, so let's use that to get over this side of the room.
The other pedals are along the right. You gotta get one of the threes in there.
You gotta get it.
Just as a heads up, for those of you who are interested in getting more involved in this type of work, can I just see a show of hands? Just how many of you think this is awesome and worth getting into? Okay, the hands keep coming up. That's okay, because we have work to do. And these session sheets, these sign-in sheets are all over the room. You can't find one. There'll be one here. But I'll be sending you an email after this. I'm the guy that bothers you with emails, so it's also another chance to get you started and to start a build small, live large advocacy group in your community, wherever you're at, whether that's Eugene to Vancouver, BC. So we're excited to help you out. Just another show of hands. I want to find out who's in the room here today. How many policymakers or municipal employees do you have? That is awesome. Thank you so much. How many contractors do you have? Builders, contractors, good. Remodelers, same group, okay. Architects, yes, I like that. Landscape architects, okay, gotcha, I heard too. Homeowners. How about homeowners? And renters? Okay, cool. How about students, people who are just to learn today? This is such a diverse group. This is fantastic. I've missed all sorts of people. Engineers, land developers. How many developers do we have? Okay, check these out. Keep your hands held up there. Okay, and innovative designer builder types, come seek these people out. This is good. We've got a sweet group, so give yourself a round of applause. This is such a great group we've got here. Thank you. Okay, just a quick recap from the day. I got a few of the highlights from the sessions that I wanted to reveal because not all of you could be in all of the sessions, but the bottom line for one of these is that homeowners need financing, okay? To do these projects, homeowners need the financing, and we need more critical mass. So homeowners out there seeking financing to do this, how many of you are there? Okay, a few. I'd be one of those. Apparently, Advantage Credit Union's got rehab loans that are perfect for this type of thing. Also, here's a great takeaway coming from Vancouver, BC, and Jake Fry. All these images we've used for our promo, our collateral is all from Smallworks. There's 200,000 households in Vancouver, BC. Over the next 20 years, 200,000 households are looking for housing, and there's no space in Vancouver to build. There's no space. So these are development opportunities here. That's a big one. Also, back to the appraisal session, the boom is happening, but it will not happen. This small housing boom will not happen without financing. And so the appraisers, wherever you are out there, get off your butt and figure out how to do this, because this is the key critical point to making the appraisal and financing connection happen. So, also, there's a diversity of emerging opportunities. Single women, huge market. We heard from Living Room Realtors and Janelle about that, being one of their major homeowners, buyers. Group housing, flexible housing, these are keys. And then the last sort of key takeaway is the possibilities of small, the possibilities. So, just a little reflection. I wanted to point out here, again, thank you to all our volunteers who helped out today making this thing possible. You made my life super easy, so thank you very much. And I also wanted to thank the sponsors again. If we could give the sponsors a round of applause. Metro, Cascade Green Building Council, Energy Trust, Morgan, Hammer in Hand, and Living Room Realtors. Also, if you want to buy one of Ross Chapin's books, if I didn't get a chance, they're all sold out back there, but at rosschapin.com you can order his book, which would be great. It's a great read. I own a copy. And then finally, after the slam, I'll introduce the slam here in a second, but after the slam, join us in the back for Cold Tasty Brew from Freedom Family Brewers. It's going to be great, so stick around for that. And I want to introduce Eli Spivak with Orange Splot LLC to give you a quick update on where the state of the state is at here in Portland. What we can do.
I hope it's the state of multiple states, because it's not just going to happen in Oregon here. Thank you. Let's give a hand of applause for Nick for organizing this awesome. people here now. About 2009, I convened a ragtag group of like builders and ADU aficionados into sort of Portland Tiny House Society. And we did this advocacy with the city of Portland to waive system development charges on accessory dwelling units, change the rules by which ADUs had to be built, and led some bike rides and tours. And then we discovered, we met Jordan, and found out the awesome work he'd done demonstrating that not only is building small, cool, and a environmentally friendly way to construct homes, but it's also way more important than lots of other green building practices that get a heck of a lot more attention. So this room tells me we're getting some attention that's well deserved now. And I wanted to share from the advocacy side, since I saw those hands come up, what you guys can do to help out. But I want to take 1 minute, because not everybody was here in the beginning of the day, just to recount what's happened over the past couple of years on this issue. System development charges, and some of this is captured. If you guys, there's a sheet going around there which has 2 pages. The first side is what's already been done. The second side is what can happen already in the future. Portland waived system development charges on accessory dwelling units and changed the rules for them. And ADU growth exploded in town. It's still not a big percent as a percentage of homes, but it's grown a lot, made a big difference. Oregon's REACH building code has been changed so that larger homes have to be more efficient. The Earth Advantage and Energy Trust have brought in small homes, giving them the points that they deserve in the scoring systems for evaluating homes. And energy incentives are now available for ADUs. Research side, we have the great work that DEQ's done, also studies of how ADUs are actually being used, and coming up in October and November, publication in the Appraisal Journal, so the appraisers know how to value things. We have guidelines for appraising houses with accessory dwelling units, which has already been used to refinance a house plus ADU, as some people have already learned about from earlier sessions. And we have a website launch, accessorydwellings.org. We've been doing tiny home bike tours for them so far, 120 people per tour at least on each one. We have full day classes being offered on how to build accessory dwelling units. We have lots of local media, and we have this summit right here. But that's just the beginning, and I want to mention there's so much low-hanging fruit out there. I mean, people trying to figure out how to build more efficient homes. You're trying to get a little bit thicker wall assemblies and trying to get more efficient appliances. There's a lot of work to get some good, important improvement. In terms of smaller homes, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit out there. So I just want to mention some new ideas that I hope that you will help make happen in the coming years. One of them is system development charges. In any jurisdiction I've seen, you pay the same whether it's a 1,000 square foot house or a 5,000 square foot house. Seems kind of strange. That's a fixed cost that builders have to pass on to their buyers. There's a good case for those to be scaled based on house size. I know that Eugene and Portland are both dedicating some staff time to explore that. We need advocates to make sure that kind of change happens. Model codes. Accessory dwelling units are on the books in a huge number of jurisdictions. There's a couple like Salem that still need to get that done. You guys can make that happen. But many jurisdictions have ADUs on the books, but almost no one builds them because there's issues with the way the code's written that make it very hard to utilize that code. I was just up in Longview, Washington. It's on the books, no one's building any of them. Portland's figured out how to make some changes to make it more accessible. Trying to disseminate that information to code writers is something that we can make happen. And there's other zoning code tricks, like the ones Ross Chapin's done up in the Puget Sound area, where you get extra units in exchange for building the houses smaller. You can't do that in Portland. Why not? There's some changes that we can do here. LEED program seems to be neutral in terms of house size. Well, that's kind of like the Lung Association being neutral about whether someone smokes or not. I mean, that's such a huge contribution to greenhouse gases. Shouldn't be neutral on something like that. I understand the politics, why that's happening, but we can put a little pressure on there. Other ideas are ADU design competition. On the research side, demonstrating we understand the demographic trends a little bit better, and who's actually using these accessory dwellings or smaller homes, are they being used for homes or offices or whatnot. Financing, working on mortgage products, getting a financing fact sheet so you can just give an appraisal a little packet and they know how to do the job so you don't have to rely on a few appraisers who know how these things work. And then outreach, maybe an anti-letter style video, very simple so people can understand the benefits of smaller homes. Maybe a Street of Small Homes event. Some maybe been to Street of Dreams around here and the dreams are 4,400 square feet. well, you could do a Street of Dreams home on a single family street in an inner city area and make all the homes 1,200 square feet, get them designed by different folks, make them beautiful, and people can check that out and get inspired and make it a different way. Continuing doing bike tours, website outreach, and importantly, extending beyond Portland and the Willamette Valley. This is a great regional effort. And so my hope is that people can, when Nick sends out an email and inquires, how do you want to sign up, you can participate in one of this informal working group. If you're a funder out there and want to support a position, then maybe we can find someone so we don't have to rely on a couple government agencies that are putting up staff to help make this happen, and can galvanize the work of all these volunteers to get a whole lot more done. I work at Habitat for Humanity as a site supervisor. Volunteers are awesome. As you can see, we've done a lot with just this ragtag volunteer crew, but we could get a lot more done if we had some additional coordination. So those are some ideas just to keep in mind. So I think I'm going to leave it at that, and thank you everyone for coming. Keep up the good work and plug in to help make more small homes going forward.
Okay, real quickly, how many of you are going to leave this room and tell a friend that wasn't here about how to build small or something new you learned? Everybody should raise their hands. I'll take a photo of this. You get your hands up much, much higher. It's high time we use our phones for something functional. I wanted to share one quick video here from you, which I think is cool, and it was touched on today, but not in the way that I think this video tells about what home is. And this is from our Living Room Realtors, and I thought it was special to share, and it's a very short video. Assuming we have internet connectivity. So, unfortunately, well, maybe fortunately, let's find out. Let's see what it was. This is our finest public institution dollars at work. Okay, well, that's too bad because that is a really cool video. Like, really cool. So that's okay. Just take my word for it. The Living Room Realtors folks are out there. They've got smart, sharp devices, and they would gladly play that for you. What's that? Okay, check it out. It's awesome. Sorry that didn't work. It was working about 15 minutes ago. Okay, so the slam, very, very quick. Seven of the Pacific Northwest best designer, builder, contractor, building small, building hip design. They've got 7 minutes each, so this is going to go fast. We're going to have a little Q&A afterwards, but they're going to get a 30-second note, and that 30-second cue will tell them when their time is up, and that 30 seconds they need to start wrapping up their dialogue. And so in that last 30 seconds, they're going to talk about their biggest barrier. So let's kick this thing off. Let's give Rainbow Valley Design, our first Build Small presenter, stage.
My time doesn't start yet, right? This is like the presidential debates, right?
Yes, your time begins.
I'm Steve Gobb with Rainbow Valley Design and Construction, and we're based in Eugene, but we also have offices in Portland. So if you're interested in doing an SDU, be sure and give us a call. This is a project that we did in Eugene. It's a artist studio, actually, a lived work example. Both of the customers are artists and they teach in this studio, but it was also designed to adapt to a 2-bedroom full ADU for future use. Another studio, this is adaptive reuse. One of the biggest problems in Eugene is neighborhood compatibility, and one of the best ideas for dealing with that is to reuse, adapt an existing building. This happened to be an old rundown shop that we converted to a lofted SDU with an attached single-family garage, and it's accessible off of the alley. Has a private yard as well. Much more traditional Dutch hip type construction, and this is a traditional granny flat, multi-generational living, very efficient floor plan, very cost-effective project. Big issue on this one was the infrastructure, the cost of the sewer lines and the utilities to this site were pretty significant. The old carriage house conversion, used for short stay rentals, primarily, woodworking shop below. This client had so much fun with us that he applied for a job and was a wonderful finish carpenter for a number of years before he retired. Part-time professor, lives in Japan, wanted to not lose his residence in Eugene, so we designed and built an ADU. He rents the primary house out to a young family that is essentially a caretaker family for him, and it gives him a lot more flexibility with his coming and going from Eugene. A more modern version of the granny flat. This is a modern shed. You can see that some sustainability elements are celebrated very visually, and this woman put a number of green features in this home. This is an open studio floor plan. Every square inch matters when you're designing small spaces. You can see a storage loft on the upper side here. That's the only part of this that is not fully accessible. There's a removable ladder that she uses to get to that. And of course, she chose some very nice finishes in this small SDU. One of the nice things about SDUs, we all talk about the costs and the problems with high costs for small buildings, but you can turn that around and explain to people that you can upscale your downsize because you're buying a lot less granite. You're buying a lot less of the materials that you're spending the money on. So you can accessorize where it really matters to you and do some really nice features. This is an attached ADU. These folks flipped it around. The young family lives upstairs. Mom lives downstairs in the original house. The only people complaining about that are the dogs that have to go up and down the stairs every day. That's not people, those are dogs, aren't they? So we don't really care about them. But anyway, this is a lower cost project. They made some careful choice of materials. Yeah, you can see the hardy plank. It was a slab on grade construction. We used laminate, and the clients did a lot of do-it-yourself work on this one as well. So I think that's about it for me. I didn't hear the ding yet, which is amazing because my reputation is I talk too much. But I'm going to wrap it up by saying that in Eugene, I think it's not unique that cost is the biggest issue. I heard Sam, I think from Hammer and Hand, say earlier that the poorest rate of close on sales for him is in meeting with ADU clients, and the same thing is true for us. Kitchens and baths are easy, ADUs are much harder, but we have even a bigger problem down there because in Eugene we don't have any SDC charge waivers, and so the cost is even more prohibitive. But equally a problem down there is the issue of compatibility, and we've been spending a lot of time about the last 5 years working on compatibility of infill and dealing with scale, dealing with looming walls, privacy issues, and those sorts of things. So the notion of acceptability is going to be the really big deal there. So, my time about up?
Yep.
Be sure to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jason Fry. I'm the owner of Smallworks Studios in Laneway Housing. those of you who were in the last panel with me, I admitted to being an optimist. I will start this session off by saying I am not a hippie. However, I lived for a time on Hornby Island, which is a lovely little island up in BC, and there became enamored with small houses and the work of a gentleman named Lloyd House, who's on page 56 of the tiny small house book that's recently been published. And Lloyd lives in a van currently, but he's made some beautiful small homes. But because I'm not a hippie, and because I'm very love carpentry, I actually also learned a lot about making small houses, not by only looking at Lloyd's houses, but by working on a boat that I have right here. It's an old boat that I rebuilt, and I probably learned more about building small houses working on boats than I ever did as a framer. But while I was in, this slide presentation is not in the order. Okay, so I'm going to wing it. Okay, my presentation went on to talk about that my project is working with making Smallworks. And one of the things that I really liked about Smallworks was, yeah, none of these are mine. So there is no slides. So anyway, going back to Smallworks. So one of the things that we really started at Smallworks that am I cycling something here? Looked at was that we first started off really wanting to make small homes. And it became a real challenge making small homes. And we worked on a number of projects where we would make little studios, and they were really enamored, lovely places, little jewel boxes, and we worked very hard to try and keep really interesting sort of organic shapes, have them be really very ship-like. And then after that, what we ended up doing was finding that when we could actually make legitimate residential properties in Vancouver, that we actually started to have them make these houses a little larger. So now we're making homes that are roughly 1,000 square feet. And again, we really focus on sort of a higher end finish. And I was just talking about earlier about this becomes really expensive. And one of the things, and a number of people have been asking me all day about the prefab that we did. So what we found was that prefab would work really well, but it's very difficult. And a lot of people go, oh, I'm going to start up a prefab factory. It is so difficult to do this endeavor. And as a piece of advice to those people who may be looking to do this, I really suggest that you look at a partnership. Find somebody who's making something else other than a house, who can help you make a house with their facility. And it's that type of partnership and that sort of thinking that is really what's going to lead to trying to make these cost effective. Because I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, if I had a dream and a wish in the context of what I'm doing now is I wish I could be delivering these family homes for about 1/3 of the price. I wish I could give them out at about $100,000 for a small family to have a home. That's not possible in the environment that we're working in. It is so problematic, but yet that's the need. So we have to figure out how we can inventively find that equation. And it's those type of partnerships, finding a ship company that's gone out of business, finding a manufacturer who does something other than homemaking and getting them into homemaking, which is going to be one of the real opportunities I think that we're going to find as a group, collectively as a group, about how we approach building. And this connects to my earlier comments from the first panel about how we're going to connect taking to these neighborhood environments and starting to look at them in a different way, starting to take a little bit of the home ownership model of this is my piece and looking at it as more of a shared and looking at the lines of that home ownership blurred a little bit with regards to property ownership within the sense of dimensions. The other thing though that's really quite interesting that I would really like to work on, and I think there is one slide here that might show that. Well, we'll just do on a couple things. So one thing towards this step is that this house, which is not here, this is the interior of it, these two slides here. So this is that's an 1,100 square foot house, and here's another angle of this. So this is actually something that's quite interesting. This is actually probably the first sort of quote unquote pocket neighborhood that's going to be happening in the Lower Mainland and up where we are. And this is quite an interesting one we talked about as well. But this is so conventional, and I think there's opportunities to move forward. And where I was going with that earlier kind of glib statement about not being a hippie is that I think the one thing that will be really interesting as we move ahead is also, I'm still struck by how antiquated the houses are. I mean, it's a very, we're so connected to the way we approach housemaking, and it's a very functional structure. But at the same time, I'm really interested too with the prefab, and on a whimsical end, if I had the opportunity, I'd love to start to take a look at these organic shapes. And my earlier slide presentation had a bunch of shapes from my time on Hornby, these natural kind of things that, periodically you get fanciful builders that can really make really interesting shapes. This is actually a roof line from a church in this outside of Sea Ranch. And looking at how these buildings could also be done prefab, and how we can look at other disciplines and put that house construction together and see what comes out of that. Because I think, going back to Lloyd House, if I had a nice shot, his most successful house was actually a house of 7 parts that were, you moved in and out of the room, and you moved in and out of indoors and outdoors seamlessly. And it was like a series of little temples that were put together. And it was probably, speaking of the most sensitive environment, and looking at even some of the earlier sort of 1970s and 50s modernism of connecting to the outside, this was probably the most successful endeavor. And yet it was so modest, and it was so simply approached. And his roof lines were lovely. They were like an upside down boat. And I think it's that type of visionary that we need to bring to this small housing approach, and a little bit of a different step out of what we've been doing. And it's with that, I think we'll find the most success. Thank you.
My name is Jim Russell. I am a prefab guy. So, with respect to our previous speaker, prefab isn't exactly as easy as you think it would be. We certainly didn't think so. And let's see, I forgot to say things. When I started prefab, I think I was really small. This is all my friends had forts, but I wanted one that I could move. And I didn't know it then that I would be doing this now, but this is a 12 square foot prefab fort. This is and we want to build efficiently, right? Because that's what we're here for. This is what my dad gave me to build my prefab fort. And I drew up a floor plan. It wasn't quite as nice as this, but you have to have plans to build stuff, so I did that. And then we recreated this fort. Now, the sad part of the story was I made it all of about 200 yards with my fort before my sister's red flyer wagon wheels all flattened out. And I couldn't get the thing back to our house where we lived. I just remember this. I even called the city to find out what permits I had to have as a 10-year-old to move my prefab fort down the street. Yeah, that must have been one weird phone call. We started IdeaBox right before the economy crashed, which was really great. But we were really intrigued with what we were seeing with the kind of the higher end prefab stuff. And to your point about building affordably, we were also really interested in creating architecture that more people could have access to. We love the small footprint thing. My former background was in energy efficiency and resource efficiency with the Department of Energy and also some National Energy Star stuff. So we were preconceived on the notion that if we built small, we could use a lot less energy in our houses. And there's some words here that you can't see, kind of like that video that was really great, by the way. And our whole thing was about doing things that were small. Because when you do small houses, you can put more money into nicer finishes and nicer materials. You can create a really nice quality of life. And the other thing I want to say real quickly before I forget, and I was asked this last week as I spoke up at Housing Washington, and we don't ever really look at our houses as being small, per se. They just happen to be not as many square feet as other houses. Because in the design, our philosophy in design is to create the best solution for the client and for the need. And most times it doesn't have to be that much space. There's a whole bunch of words with this slide too that are on here. And what it's talking about is we think our lifestyles are changing quite a bit. We think that bookshelves now are in Kindles and iPads. Movies, your storage of cassette tapes and video and discs and stuff are going into smartphones even. So you don't have to have as much space to have all that stuff. We also contend that a lot of people, because of all this stuff on TV, are more aware of what design means and what it can be for them. And then because we're IdeaBox, we've tended to build a nice brand. We also think maybe there's a concept where there could be brand in housing, which is something we've been exploring and learning a lot about. This is our first house, and I have to fly now because I have a lot of slides. We started out, this is a 400 square foot house. It's a small one that we built in Salem. Some of you might have been there and seen it. It's a park model. It's to an RV code. We take them in interesting places. Different codes allow you different things. We're not wed to any one of them. This house was in House Beautiful a couple of years ago. We built bigger ones. This is a little cottage, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. This one is on its way to Orcas Island. I love this picture quite a bit. It's kind of cool. Went up a pretty intense little hill. Sits on site today. This is one of my favorites. This is an example of trying to make a building fit well farmed. This is a vineyard. The guy wanted it to be more like an agricultural building. So we did the whole thing out of corrugated metal. And I like it because it really, in a real quick series of pictures, shows the level of quality you can achieve in a prefab environment. You know, we're doing bamboo floors, maple cabinets, stone counters, lots and lots of glass, a ton of natural light. This is our feng shui house. This house is going to be in a magazine we've heard next spring or summer. This gal is very colorful. She took our basic kind of house and then went to town with it in terms of how we could place doors and windows, and also her exploration of color I thought was really exciting and fun. It shows again the potential of what houses prefabs can be. We also like to partner with people. This is our model called the Fortino. We did this with Crate and Barrel a couple of years ago on one of the Portland Home Show. It was fun to see what a large national furniture provider could do with one of our spaces. This is one of our larger houses. It's 1,140 square feet. This model appeared in the Street of Dreams, mentioning the Street of Dreams. We followed an 8,000 square foot home, and this one again is 1,140. The cost of that house that followed was right around $1 million, and ours was well under $200,000. So that was an interesting contrast. They couldn't figure out a category for us, so we went best value. We did a house this year with IKEA, which was interesting because our concept was we wanted to take advantage of what small design could be, and IKEA is known for that. You need to get excited and watch people in their store. It went a little crazy on us because the wrong story got out, and we were on the Ellen DeGeneres show. So there's more of that story. We were able to show the home out at IKEA. Some of you might have seen it. We ran it off of those solar panels. Well, this house was 740 square feet, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. It was a departure for us because we used all their stuff, and it was also cool because we used all their stuff. And now, is that my time to go? Oh, there's so many cool slides here. Kind of like that video. We like small houses. This is our accessory dwelling unit, by the way. We're getting ready to do a series of those. This is a lodge cottage we're doing out of Wyoming. That's the view. These are two that went on a retreat center. 300 square feet. How much time do I have? Seconds. That's a bigger one. It's our biggest one yet. And we do floating homes. I guess I'm done. Thank you.
Director of Design at Green Hammer. I've been in Portland about a year and a half now, working with Green Hammer Design Build, and I'm pleased that you'll have me here tonight to show some of the work. I noticed in the last 25 years of practicing architecture that this trend towards smaller, smarter, simpler has well preceded the recession. The recession seems to have accelerated it, but tonight I'm going to show you sort of the history of some of the things that I've discovered in that. And then start to talk about a little bit about where these small houses might be a better fit in the urban. This is probably the smallest house I've ever designed, a little playhouse I did for my daughters about 7 years ago. This little house, you can have the best maps, and there's no electromagnetic waves. I actually had a guy who was moving down from his 400 square foot house, want to rent this thing from me for about $200 a month. It's at 44 square feet, that's about $54 a square foot, so you do the math, it's pretty good real estate. My daughters really got excited about that $200 that they sort of put into mine. This was built all out of materials that I found and took out of other jobs. We started to notice pretty quick that people wanted smaller, smarter, faster, simpler houses. This is a house in Asheville, North Carolina that's gotten quite a bit of press. I've also started to notice when I did this house and started to notice the idea of affordable housing. And I remember the house that my dad bought in 1964 with linoleum tile and T111 siding and plastic laminate countertops. And I started to notice that my clients looking for smaller houses seem to be, and affordable houses seem to be entitled to granite and hardwood floors everywhere. I started to ask, what's going on here? And I also remember that he drank a 5-cent cup of coffee back then and drove Impalas, so I think our standards for nicer stuff. And the other phenomenon about this house is we designed, it's about 1,000 square feet, and we had it on a home tour. And the one thing I started hearing in that home tour is, this is a great little house, how am I going to fit all my stuff in it? So I started understanding that people aren't quite ready to purge. So I started to ask, the question, looking at the tiny house movement, the slow house movement, the not so big house movement, so I started to say, well, what is my brand? And I started to look at what is the right size house. And I think we've heard a lot of that today, that the right size house depends on what you do. If you're a woodworker, or you start to, more people are working out of their house, a 44 square foot house isn't going to cut it. This is a house one of my partners at Green Hammer did. It's 1,000 square feet. It takes advantage of the site, about a 100 foot by 150 foot site in Eugene, passive house design. And it has a lot of outdoor space, so the clients there wanted to make a smaller house and live outside. And of course, these houses have creative storage, enhanced interior details. This is a pattern that started to happen in Asheville, where I was practicing before I came to Portland. We designed these tree houses. These were very steep sites, and we had to keep the footprints of the houses to about 18 by 18 or 20 by 20 to minimize the impact. And so these presented interesting design challenges to get kitchen, living, dining on one floor. And this developer hated me because I would always give him about 7-8 inches for return on a sink, and he always had to do something creative. But I always thought it was the best part of the house. Then there's the flexible house. So this is a 1,800 square foot house that I entered into a design competition for a free green plan book. It won out of 400 houses, it won first place. And this is one of these flexible houses where the lower level can be a extra unit or a home office. I show 2 garages here, but I don't know if anyone ever uses garages for garages anymore. These become potter studios, artist studios, wood shops. And so those are kind of cool. And then this is the main floor, which is sort of master on main. This can become a den, and as you get older, the house can accommodate you living on one floor, and then you can either rent out the lower level. And then it has a very flexible second floor where you have 2 bedrooms with a child's realm, which can either be converted to a 3rd bedroom or to a living room. And then, of course, no house is complete without a meditation tower. Then I started to ask, what is the appropriate place, and what is the appropriate mix, and where does the right size house fit? And so I started doing quite a bit of this, especially before the recession, of these little urban plans of small houses. This is Chicken Hill in Asheville, North Carolina. And we started to notice the clients were wanting a more trendy, there was a great craftsman tradition in Asheville, North Carolina. I showed up in 2003 in Asheville, North Carolina. I did a pretty good craftsman, and the same thing there. They're like, oh, we're sick of craftsman, can you do something else? And so we started to do this craftsman fusion that still sort of ties itself to its place. These houses range from the corner houses where I designed that competition to the house that I showed you earlier. This would have been about 1,800 square feet with an ADU. This is about 1,000 square feet with a artist studio in the basement. And then these are about 700 square feet. And now he's starting to build these because that's what the market is demanding from him. Or this is a project in which I'm a new urbanist, if you haven't figured that out yet. And so I don't generally do cul-de-sacs. These are sort of no-nos, but we inherited this road, and the developer came, and the person who land planner designed this had a big apartment building here and townhouses that didn't really work with the terrain. And so we reworked this plan to have mixed-use apartments that started to step with the terrain, traditional houses that he wanted to sell. And then we had these townhouses here, and then he had, is that me already? And so we had these little cottages, and he loved those little cottages. That's what he was going to build first. Here's a little preview of the cottage. This is another sort of mixed use. These are aging in place communities where you can start as a family here and end up either starting as a young professional here or end up as a senior in one of those. Affordable housing, my first prefab. This is some project we're doing in Wygant in Asheville or in Portland, and it is 5 units on 2 lots. I like recombining lots. These were big lots that we turned into 6 units. And this is the project on Ankeny that we're doing with Green Hammer. It's a net zero energy passive house, 6 units, one very small 900 square foot unit with 1,500 square foot unit, and we pre-sold a product that probably appraises 30% higher than the market because of it doesn't appraise, it probably costs more than 30% more than we can get an appraisal for, and we pre-sold 5 of the 6 units. So we have one left, if you still want it, and thanks for having me. Next. Okay. Well, I forgot to announce one thing from when I spoke before. The City of Portland has accessory dwelling unit SCCs. The waiver expires in June. Well, we did a couple phone calls and emails, and the City Council is drafting an extension right now, and it's going to Council before Thanksgiving to extend it for at least a couple more years. So give City of Portland a hand. Okay, my company is Orange Splot. I'm Eli Spivak. We try and innovate with infill housing, clusters of small homes. That book's the inspiration. Check it out. First project, Peninsula Park Commons, 7-unit courtyard development. We converted into 6 units in the common space with a bicycle and gardening theme. 3 girls. It started with 8 people. Now there's 22. 8 of them kids, 4 of them born on the premises. Sometimes we have large gatherings. That project came with 7 garages. Not a single one had a car for 3 years. We tore them down. We put up 3 more units with a sheer courtyard. And I should say, I believe strongly in building small. And if you're going to build small, you got to build charming. The smaller, the cuter. That's my rule. And so we try and do that and have fun with it. Richard Colley, March 4th Marching Band, also no artist. You can see in the corners. They're up in the gable ends, all made of bike parts. Stained glass in the gables, glamour shot. Trellises with all the brackets are made of bike parts, powder dipped, integrated into the railing system. Courtyard, salvage bricks. Got these off Ross Island, don't tell anyone. Took them home, slipped them in the courtyard, beautiful centerpiece. Tree fell down on a house in Officers Row in Vancouver, Washington. I happen to know the arborist. We took it home, milled it up. That's all the interior trim on those units. Saving Green development, 1 house and accessory dwelling unit were on the site. We built a house and a detached accessory dwelling unit, used condominiums so they're all owned separately. That's the existing house when I bought it.
That's the new house we built, stained glass in the gable end, work with community texture on design. That's the little tiny new house we built, 20 by 20 footprint. This time the whole trim package is from salvage wood from a house that was deconstructed near a Safeway nearby. Circular stairs have a closet and storage underneath because that house is small, you gotta get every inch you can for storage. Community building process, constructed a little detached shared house with cob, straw, clay construction, and a green roof. And it anchors the central courtyard in that development. Single family house, tiny grandma house, you can barely see it from the street on a 50 by 100 foot lot in Northeast Portland. To the side of it, we built a 12 by 14 house and another 12 by 14 house. They're detached bedrooms, each one pretty autonomous, kept the whole front yard, otherwise that house probably would have been a tear down. Another courtyard, swirly brick pattern, bike storage, and more fun uses for old bike parts. Inside, you've got some, through that door is a bathroom, got a kitchenette there, got some leftover salvage wood from the last project, and nice little views from one to another. That's all completed. 8-unit project with a shared common house, affordable housing, North Portland. We got a stair with a really active courtyard. The kids played on it all during construction. We had to sort of teach the kids that it's not theirs once it was finished and people moved in, because they kept playing on it. Great artistry in this project. We had a music theme. It's across the street from a Boys and Girls Club. They love music, and we rolled with it. So we have some doorbells and some, with a leaf. Got some curvy trellises. Site supervisor Simon loves building curvy things, so we just keep doing it. And he even put a little chipmunk on the green roof as a surprise for me. This is our front of our house we're renting right now, building a little tiny house on wheels. Not sure how or where we'll be located, but it will be part of a little tiny house pod sometime. And maybe City of Portland will get around to making that legal someday too. Inside, some more decorative artwork from Richard Cawley. Shower in there. And some more bike art. This is a house that I stay behind the desk, unfortunately, mostly, but I got to build this. This is my daughter's first condo. Ducks live underneath, she lives up top. This is me and Zach. We're teaming up to do the 16-unit Coley Grove development. This is when we were just getting started. It's on 2 acres. You can see a site plan there. On the left is the architect's version. On the right is the version of me climbing up the tree in our neighbor's yard to look across the street. And wedding vow, we determined we would never live in a construction zone, so we're living across the street from the project. We'll move in when it's done. And this is 16 homes on a couple acres, and we've got, as we say today, 15 of the homes are framed up. The last ones are coming up now. It's a great group of buyers, a mix of first-time home buyers, baby boomers, and young families. 50-50 mix so far. That's our crew at Orange Splot. Thank you.
Start on the beer. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge Nicholas, because I think it's become apparent that he's put this entire conference together, I believe, by himself. He's been managing it by himself, so I think he deserves a round of applause, because no one else has done that. I've really enjoyed getting to know Nicholas since he's joined Cascadia and moved down to Portland, so plenty more to come, plenty more fun to come, I'm sure. And I'd like to acknowledge the rest of the speakers as well, because I feel really humbled to share the stage with them. Many of them I consider them mentors and inspiration, and these people are constantly setting the bar higher and higher for the building industry, and I think that's really important that we maintain that creative, kind of a nurturing, competitive environment. I think is kind of how I describe it. But it inspires me every day just to know that there's other people out there constantly pushing and trying to redevelop or redefine what green or building or sustainable building or however you want to define it, what it means to them. So it keeps me going on a daily basis. So I'm James Arnold. I'm president, I guess, now, owner of JRA Green Building. We're a family-owned and run business. My dad and both my brothers and the rest of the crew, which are all friends, we all work together like a family. And so I went ahead and I decided to grab my highest resolution. I think this is 5 or 6. This is before I could afford to buy a camera. So when you start your business, you scrape the change and you do whatever you can. And most people start out building small just to get your business started, right? So a lot of us already know what it's about, whether you have the idealism to go along with it in the first place. So anyways, you can see my fancy little arrow pointing to the garage. And that's a $60,000 budget, non-negotiable, can't go up. And so I thought, well, okay, I'll try to design this one. And managed to convince the city of Portland to let us build a black hole. There it is. Oh, I'm still learning about PowerPoint. That's from the abyss comes. So JRA design savvy. There you go. So somehow in the city of Portland, as long as you match the roof pitch and keep the overhangs the same, you can kind of do whatever you want. So somehow I got this clear story design over across the desk, and I'm still flabbergasted to this day. I don't know how to do that. So about 575 square feet with a little loft. I apologize for not having any interior photos, but grant writer, dancer, she wanted open space and a loft. She had real simple needs. So learned a lot about designing and building and dealing with small space renovation. And we're probably lucky if we broke even on that one. We probably should have deconstructed it entirely and then just built it back up. But that was before we got super infatuated with Passive House and super low energy, but still at that point it's about a 9-inch wall system with the triple pane windows. So it's pretty darn energy efficient even for a little garage retro ADU. I know, sorry about the text, I know it's against the rules, but our new infatuation, our new goal, our new high bar for JRA and the integrated design team that we like to work with, which includes departure, architecture, it revolves around the Living Building Challenge. And if you're not familiar with it, it's probably the most rigorous of frameworks for building, for the built environment currently. It involves net zero energy, net zero water, and also an incredibly strict site evaluation and materials profile, referred to as red list compliant materials profile. And I won't go into detail on that because I think everyone can go do their own research and learn more about it, or we can talk later. This was the first living building project we worked on. It's a little retreat house for the Sisters of Smallworks University, and they wanted to put together a spiritual retreat, but then also build it in the most sustainable fashion that they could imagine. And that's why they chose the Living Building Challenge. So that's just a process photo there. Moving on to a project that we just finished recently, the full plane passive house. Maybe some of you saw it earlier in Michelle's presentation. But so I'm just gonna run through this real quick because there's a lot of slides of this particular project. But this has been our baby for the last year, and we've really been focusing all of our energies on that. And my dear father, I think he was about ready to quit and move away because we were figuring out all these Living Building Challenge details, not on the fly, but there's a lot to deal with, and it is truly a challenge. But I think we're pretty happy with what we've accomplished, and it's going to take a year for it to be certified. So we'll see how we do. I'll tell you in a year from now, the next conference. So Space efficient design also, I think, equals energy efficient design, at least in my mind. I mean, maybe some people disagree, but I think we try to work with the surface to volume ratios to make it a fun and usable space for the client. So let's do these. The butterfly roof, again, is for the help with the rainwater catchment. 100% FSC certified materials throughout. The lot is probably the biggest gift to this project, a southern facing lot, which gives us the advantage of the passive house design profile to meet our net zero energy goals. Looks pretty cool. I mean, I like it. The glass here you see on the stairway, the glass, I guess you can call it railing. That was my housewarming gift to the client. We couldn't find anything that fit into the budget that was also REDLIS compliant, and that's basically finally I just gave up and said, this is the coolest option. Let's just do this. What's great about what's an interesting thing that came along in trying to comply with the strict materials profile is that we ended up crafting and building most everything ourselves, and the crew really enjoyed that. I mean, that's kind of as a carpenter, that's your dream, is to just craft every single part of the house. So every piece of wood in this project was, milled, modified, glued, built, nailed, etc., designed by us. Most of it's maple. All right, here we go. So do you see the little composting toilet in there? That's part of our net zero water profile. The client really liked pink because it was in her studio, so she added that. JRA home built skylight. Side cast concrete tub. Yeah, that was good. If you like that, she loves it, so that's good. She had her friend hand make some sinks there. Again, more and more maple everywhere. There's the composting toilet again. And it's pretty. The design's pretty simple, but I think it works really good for her family. Again, south-facing windows, really nice for the guest bedroom. The kitchen is, Michelle put together a really efficient kitchen design, and it basically just kind of galley style, connected right to the living room. There's the living room. Triple pane windows throughout. Project that we're currently working on right now is called the Flex House. It's interesting. It's kind of like what Dylan was talking about. Has a built-in attached ADU and also a green roof. And what's interesting about this project is that hypothetically it can support more density than the previous living building, but this one here includes the attached ADU, and we had a 19% reduction in square footage costs. So the previous project was about $215 a square foot, where this one comes in, about 19% under that. Now it doesn't reach the net zero water category, and it's probably not going to reach passive house either, but is it a great example of a house that can fit into a neighborhood program of net zero energy and water in the future? So it's future-proof is how I like to describe it. And there's a nice rendering of what it's going to look like when we're done with it. So to answer Nick's question, I don't think that there are any problems or barriers with building small. I think we know how to do it, and we just need to continue to do it. I think we're good at it. This group here is definitely good at it, I would say. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sam Hagerman. I'm with Hammer at Hand. I guess I'm going last. Same designer, different project. This is Departure Design too. This is an ADU we built in the Alberta Arts District. We finished it about a year and a half ago. I'm a peer builder. I don't do any design in-house. We collaborate with a lot of you in the audience to do the design. So I'll focus on the nuts and bolts, sort of technical construction part of this. It's sort of a strange way to end because it was such a design-heavy slam so far. So This is an 800 square foot, you know, maxed out in terms of code. Low energy use. It's a good segue to talk about are there problems with building small. I was kind of glib about this in our breakout session, but it is harder to make very low energy use buildings small, or small buildings, very low energy use, in terms of the way we do those standards are generally done by a performance-based standard, which is measuring, for instance, how many kilowatts the house uses per square foot per year. So when you crank down the size of the treated floor area versus a larger skin to the ratios of the skin, the house becomes less efficient. Like in the ice ages, the big, fat, furry animals survived, and the little tiny ones all froze to death. Basic principle. So it's harder to make small houses less efficient. We're talking at the national level, like actually modifying the idea that you have to make every structure use a maximum amount per square foot per year, and just say, but if it uses less than this as a total structure, then you're still fine in terms of the certification. So this is not a passive house, but it's very close. Didn't have the budget for the windows. Many of you have probably heard that before. But beautiful spaces inside, poured concrete floor on the first level. Nice kitchen, bathrooms back in that corner. The split screen, the bathroom's on the right, so you'll see the floor plan here in a second. Our wall construction here has, it's basically a conventionally framed wall, but using advanced framing, which is then insulated with high density cellulose, dense packed cellulose rather. And the whole building is wrapped with a layer of EPS insulation, so there's got monolithic foam insulation from the bottom all the way up over the roof, down, and then under the footing, so it's actually structural foam. The whole house sits on foam. None of the concrete slab or the structural footing touches dirt, so it has a very low heat loss to the ground and very thermally resistant around its entire perimeter. Got a floor plan here, very simple. Coming in the door, big living room, well, big relatively speaking, kitchen, bathroom, stair going up to a 2-bedroom, accessed by a hallway. At the end of that hallway is a laundry closet. I always encourage people to put laundry facilities in their rentals. This is a rental, and it rents for $1,600 a month. Here's the building going up. We have structural foam there. The house sits right down on that. That's an 8-inch layer of geofoam. We pour concrete, sort of a void there. Go up from there. We're air sealing plywood on the exterior skin, insulating dense packed cellulose on the right side. Here's another ADU that we built, and then this is a great example of simple form versus complex form. This building uses more energy than this building. This building is 800 square feet, and this building is about 380. So why does this building use more than this? This is a simple form. It has a much better ratio of treated floor to exterior skin. This thing, to be essentially cute, which is Eli's point, which is well taken, has a lot of exterior shape to it. So we've maximized the exterior skin in terms of its exposure to the cold. We had some really severe size restrictions on this, so the design didn't let us clad this in any sort of monolithic foam, which is another main reason that it uses relatively large amounts of energy versus this project. However, this project is cute. This project is less cute. Tiny appliance. You know, it's just tiny. That's the thing. How can it not be cute if it's tiny? It's like a baby house. So to end on a technical note, one of the strategies we used here, and this is what we've moved this to this strategy as a company, is what we're doing to the exterior of this house is putting on a fluid applied membrane. It basically replaces any sort of building paper or Tyvek. It also replaces any mechanical flashings around the rough openings. We basically put all this goop on the outside of the house. It does all the air sealing. It's a weather resistant barrier. We put our rain screen batten right on the face of this, and we only have to use minimal flashing at the siding right behind the siding to get bulk water out of the system. This system breathes, it's vapor permeable, it self-heals around fasteners, and we have a super airtight rating on this. I think we were down below 1 air changes per hour, even with just normal windows. So it's almost a passive house level of airtightness, and that's the saving grace of this building. Is it's so airtight that it has very low energy load.
What's the good?
Well, that's the product that we've used almost exclusively now. It's made by a company called Wet Flash. Product's called Wet Flash is distributed by a company called Prosica. And you send me an email, I'll be happy to let you know all about it. Just to sum up, I'd like to echo James's sentiment about how honored I feel to be included in this crowd and asked to participate at the level I am. And I really think that a couple things I've mentioned today on occasion, I bear repeating, well, maybe just one. I think 10 or 15 years ago, when we were all sort of talking about doing this course, with a few of us that were talking about doing it, were looking out into a landscape that was openly hostile to putting little houses in the backyards of our neighborhoods. We had neighborhood associations who were up in arms about any sort of change. And I think that having 300 people here enthused about this in Portland, Oregon today is a huge accomplishment. And I look forward to this sort of exponential growth as this concept takes hold in the market and gets us moving down the right road in the right direction. So thank you, everybody.
I'd call all 7 of those presenters up on stage if that's possible. Just what I wanted you to do is, this is your crack at the slammers. We're going to take a few pretty direct Q&A. You've got them, so who wants to start this out? Let's see if they can play nice up there. Any questions?
I really noted a complete lack of accessibility. No grab bars, I saw stairs with no rails. Ramps could have been placed by the stairs. It seemed many of these were designed short-term, but not long-term. And the lack of accessibility really concerns me because people are getting older and need accessibility.
You're absolutely right. It's been a major point of discussion. I think if we were to rebuild that project again, we built it 2 feet higher out of the ground. We were concerned about being too high and sticking out in the neighborhood. I mean, it sticks out in the US, right? We did manage to get the walkway to be ADA compliant. That's why, I don't know if you saw, but that's why it meanders all the way down. But you're right, there aren't any rails there. These rails are slated to go in at some point. But even inside, when you walk in, there's 2 more stairs that drop down, and then you've got a staircase to go upstairs. So it's definitely not, you can roll down at your own risk, I guess, down the driveway and roll in that way, and then have someone help you down there if you're in a wheelchair. But that's been a major point that I've been struggling with when dealing with the hillside lots and how do we deal with these design issues? And I'll confess that we didn't accomplish anything there. So Larry, can we use you as an accessibility consultant on our next project?
My house is completely accessible, but it doesn't look handicapped. That's why it was on the tour. And I used materials. I didn't see many recycled materials. I think I like design. Form follows function. It needs to work. It also needs to be wonderful.
I think garage conversions are an awesome idea. We've done the Safe and Green project. One of those was a garage conversion, natural, accessible layout, and I know other people have done that as well. So that's a great area of converting car space to parking space and making it accessible.
Also, two of the projects that I showed were designed as accessible. One of them was literally accessible, except the grab bars and things weren't installed because our client didn't need them yet, but all the blocking's in place, everything's ready to go. The other one you may not have seen, actually I don't think the slide showed it, but Mom lives in the main house because that's able to be made accessible. The secondary dwelling unit was upstairs, so that wasn't.
Same with the Ankeny project, which is designed for people who want to age in place. In fact, they're ditching their suburban lifestyle to live right down on Ankeny, on 25th and Ankeny. And those units, everything is accessible from the rear or from the courtyard. And then we have those buildings that are right on the road. So one of the issues we're trying to raise in good urbanism to raise your front porch off the street so it's not direct access on the street. We have ramps or graded wing to get into the back of those units. Those are designed when they age, come down to the first floor.
Let's move on to the next question.
I enjoyed seeing the variety of houses. I have a question for Jim from IdeaBox. I had heard that it's really easy to lose your shirt doing prefab, and I'd love to know your secrets. How do you make that happen? Because we could really transform the landscape if prefab could be designed well.
Well, I wondered where that shirt went to. Now we know. It is hard. You know, it's one of the things we thought going in. My background when I was in the Department of Energy was working with manufactured housing and prefab plants on energy efficiency measures in the 90s, and that's where we learned a lot about how to design and build and effectively use what you can build in a factory. Then we were watching the designer people do it, you know, Michelle Kaufman and Rocio Romero and others, and seeing the costs that, and some of our contemporaries today, the costs were really, really high. So we really focused on efficiency technologies that allowed us to keep our costs low. I think, how to answer that question? Well, once I find my shirt, I can much more easily answer that question. It's hard. It's really hard. I think it's a combination of knowing what you want to build, knowing the design parameters you want to stay to, and then finding, someone mentioned partners that can help you accomplish it. I don't know if that answers your question.
I was just somebody. And I would put in and answer the question a little differently, because we've done, with the current configuration, we've done close to 45 homes that we've prefabbed, each one different, which I think is a little bit of an anomaly. For us though, what we did was we didn't go to a full modular. We've done a couple of things. One is we primarily do what's called a flat pack home. So we're building the walls conventionally using low threshold technology, so there's not a lot of investment other than the software for the design part of this, and then able to quite quickly ramp up in a very modest facility to be able to get to volume. And then the other component of that is that the one modular thing we have played with is looking at a full module that's a kitchen, a mechanical room, and a 3-piece bathroom. And that we can produce with the kitchen actually fully installed as a single unit. So that is something that we sometimes put in. I think it's the blending of the two. And I think the other important thing too, these are really small spaces. They need to be livable, and there's a touchy-feely sort of quality to that of wanting to have craft. And you're only going to get craft work when it's done on site. So it's a matter of trying to put the two together in one package.
Hey guys, so it seems to me ADUs are a great mechanism as a long-term investment for homeowners, and I'm wondering, as builders, for those of you who have had experience building ADUs, what are your thoughts about the payback or the potential for building an ADU on spec for immediate resale? Does it pay for itself, and is that a good investment, or is it solely a good long-term build and hold investment for homeowners right now in this current market?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of spec anyway, but people are really clearly much better at it than I. But I don't know if this. I think it's more of a break even or a little bit less. I don't think that there's a huge business model out there buying. It doesn't seem to me to be substantially different than buying a house, fixing it up, flipping it. That concept is the same or maybe a little bit better than buying a house, fixing it up, and putting an EDU in the backyard and flipping it. I think that you'd have to wait for the market to catch up in the income valuation process that Taylor Watkins talks about, so that you could, I could see a model working where you buy a house, fix it up, build an ADU, rent them both out, and show this awesome income stream of $3,000 a month, and then go out and get a loan based on that if you can find the appraisal methodology to support the valuation.
I've done a couple ADUs on spec with houses, the Save and Green project. So one approach you can take is to use condo, separate the ownership, sell them both off. So just as developers in the past housing cycle, and they're doing it again today, we're scrambling to buy houses with side lots that are vacant. Well, maybe housing will get tight enough in the city that people will buy houses with big backyards so they can do the same thing. And that's, I think in Portland at least, there's a lot of pushback against really big homes, skinny homes. It seems that accessory dwelling units are pretty accepted because they're discrete by definition, whether they're below a house, above a house, in the backyard, and that might be a housing form that would work as a spec product.
Yeah, condos also. And this is speaking from the north end of Cascadia, where we have a different, as I've outlined before and today, that we do have a different evaluation of our lots, and the financial dynamics are a lot different. I think where the valuation comes is this is the only way someone can really release equity off their property. A lot of people can't even afford to move in the context that they have nowhere to go. So they sell, but then they can't go anywhere. So this is a way to actually put, potentially with a co-ownership model, put some money in their pocket and actually get some money off the property while still maintaining their home.
Okay. We're custom design builders. We don't do spec, or very rarely do we. But in Eugene, one of the criteria is that one of the two units has to be owner occupied. And so building the house and the SDU on spec is a leap of investment that isn't happening down there.
One bit of advocacy on that is Portland got rid of that requirement a number of years ago. Anyone looking at ADU codes in your community recognize that that restriction to owner occupancy in one of the units makes it harder to finance ADUs, so therefore you'll see less of them. So if you don't really need that requirement, because I don't think it's been a problem, it wasn't in Portland, maybe you just drop that owner occupancy requirement, and then suddenly people can get traditional financing for the ADUs, as though it were duplex.
Just to comment on that, I agree. However, in Eugene, the University of Oregon is a very large fish in the small pond, and the impacts from the University of Oregon and the rentals around it are inordinately a concern for the neighborhoods in those areas. And so we have a real difficult political issue there to solve in that regard.
Okay, 2 questions left.
So how do you balance what I see as kind of conflicting needs to design a small home, but also a home that is going to work with a family as it grows? So something that has accessible bedroom on the ground floor, room for the kids when they're little, but then what do you do when they grow up? Any comments on that?
Wonderful design.
Flexible design that we showed in the free green competition winner does just that. And so what I wanted to show there was that is a little bit bigger house than I would consider a small house, but that through the life cycle of that house, it could be for a very big family, it could be a 5-bedroom house, which is almost unheard of unless you come from certain persuasions. And but then as you grow old, you can live on the main level, you might move into the ADU, and then you can divide the house into 5 units, and hopefully the zoning ordinance in that community would support that at that point. So I think you see that quite naturally in a lot of historic houses, even in Portland, that they've been divided and reconstituted and stuff like that. And what I wanted to also show is that you have an urbanism also that can absorb that it isn't just about affordable living in a small house that makes your life affordable. It's an affordable lifestyle, but you don't have to pay for a car, you have independence, you can walk to places, and it's a much richer lifestyle than that. So it isn't necessarily living or building small, living large. It's actually, building small and living small too, or at least small footprint.
I'll echo Dylan's sentiment. I think I'm not a designer, but I think it's a good design philosophy to consider flexibility as part of every design approach, whether it's residential or commercial. And I think if we shouldn't paint ourselves in the corner. with any designer in the construction process. That's my opinion.
One anecdote, some boomers we work with want to downsize specifically so the kids can't boomerang back into the house.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. I always like to look at questions like this, look back towards history. I mean, the needs of the marketplace will find a way. We can't always anticipate things. I agree with James when we say we're conceptually painting ourselves into a corner. There's a large portion of the housing stock in Portland in the 40s and 50s was converted to duplexes and triplexes, and the code was changed to what the extent it existed. That work was made easy by the city at the time. And it's talked to old inspectors who've been around for a while. They understand the concept of wartime duplex. Oh, you have a wartime duplex. It means it was built as a single-family house, converted to a duplex. The city sort of grandfathered it in, and it was a function of the time. So I think that we just sort of do the best that we can right now. Future-proofing is a great concept, but yeah, that's a big can of worms for sure.
Okay, one last question I have for each of you. You can just go down the line here. Is in your current house that you're living in, how oversized is your current home? You can use a percentage or a square footage. What could you dump off your current home?
I have a 25,000 square foot house. My wife and my son and I live in a 1,200 square foot, 110-year-old house. We bought it because it's on a double lot, and it has a big RV garage that we've converted into an art studio, and it actually has another bathroom in there. So we have 2 bathrooms on our property, different houses. So we work out of one part of it, and we live out of the other part. I'm going to add an ADU next year to the basement of my house, basically.
Okay, adding space.
Adding space.
Down the line, quicker response.
We're renting an 1,100 square foot house before we move into our next home in Cully Grove. There's a 10-foot carport to the side of the house and a huge backyard behind it. I would raise that carport up 3 feet so we could slip in a bunch of tiny houses to the backyard.
I live in a 1,000 square foot of a 2-unit duplex, and I have a 15-year-old with a 4-member rock band, so I am not giving up any.
We're boring. We live in a 1,900 square foot condo. Actually, IdeaBox, our whole thing started about that we live in the kitchen, the family room, and then a bedroom. And that's kind of how we formulated what we do. So I think we could eliminate the second bedroom, the second bathroom. And we live in a golf course we could fill up with tiny houses all day long.
We moved into a 900 square foot house, converted the garage to have our daughter and son have separate bedrooms, and so we now live in about 1,050 and have a secondary dwelling unit in the backyard that, now that our children are adults and come back to visit, we don't rent it out, we use it for guest house.
I just moved here. I loaded a van from Asheville, North Carolina a year and a half ago with 17,000 pounds of stuff, which is small for my family. My brother-in-law is a football coach. He had 29,000 pounds of stuff. So my house is a little too small. I have 2 daughters and a wife who's running 3 different businesses out of the house. I had a wood shop that I gave up, so I would have a little bit bigger. It's about 1,600 square foot. And my daughters seem to have a lot of stuff. And, and we're sort of consumer conscious. Maybe grandparents and aunts and uncles aren't, and that's how we got so much stuff, but it's a constant purging, so.
Like Sam, we have my fiance and I have a 1,200 square foot, 110-year-old house. No garage or anything. We got a bun in the oven, so there'll be 3 of us. The cat makes 4 of us. If you divide that out, that's 300 square foot per mammals. I think the going rate, and it's changing every day, is the carrying capacity of the planet is about 300 square foot per person. So I guess if we have another child, which I guess that's controversial too, right? We would be meeting that new metric, but by the time we finish this conference, it might be 285 square foot per people. I don't know. But we do want to take advantage of the STC charges being eliminated and get an ADU flexible space in the back so I could have a home, maybe a home office, some workspace, and then a little studio up above for a family and guests and whatnot.
Okay, well, thank you so much to these 7 up here. Please give them a round of applause. And just before we let you go to the back room and enjoy some delicious, refreshing beverages, Jordan Palmieri is going to just close us out with a few last words.
Thanks so much for being here. This is great. There's still almost 300 people here, and I know I stand between you and beer. It's going to be a long line. If anyone is going back to Seattle tonight, Ross Chapin needs a ride. There are no more trains. So go find Ross if you're heading to Seattle. I mean, who wouldn't want to spend 3 hours in the car with that guy? He's amazing. So please go find him if you can. And I wanted to just thank Nick. Thanks so much, Nick and Cascadia, for helping us pull off a great event today. It's been wonderful. There's been lots of other people involved. Thank you to all the speakers, and especially thank you to all the attendees. Lots of people came up to me and gave me lots of ideas about, gosh, what to do next year, and you guys should be trying this and doing that. And I'll tell you, there's going to be a way for you to give that feedback to us. So there'll be an email going out soon with feedback, asking you about feedback for the actual conference today, and then also ways for you to follow up. Like I said, we have a work group going. We want help. We want your expertise to help advance these issues. So look for it there, and let's make maybe another 2 years of an STC waiver for ADUs. Get those numbers up again. So thanks a lot for being here, everyone.